Hello, this is Mike, NoStressMike.com. I want to talk about lying and, not telling the truth or telling half truths. And in the way of for self defense, I don't promote lying in any way. When I talk to people, I take it for granted they're telling me the truth. When they lie, I automatically that's it. I don't want nothing to do with them because if somebody lies 5% of the time, we can't trust anything they say. But when it comes to self-defense, lying is a whole lot different, and this is what I want to talk about now. To lie properly. That's not doesn't sound quite right, but anyway, to there's a time to lie, and a good example is when you're being when you're being kidnapped. You're going to say, "Well, you let me go. I won't tell anybody." Well, everybody knows you're lying. So, so in other words, there are times to lie. Now, to lie best is you need to know when to lie, and you lie about things that you are knowledgeable about. When if I was to say, well, I'm trying to think something I have no experience in. Oh, if I say, well, I'm a sailor, I sail a boat all around the world. For me to lie like that and no experience, they're going to see through my lie really quick. So it takes experience. You can lie best when you are experienced in a certain subject. And then you can kind of twist it around a little bit and make it something that it's not, if that's what your purpose is. And for me, what this series of videos is going to be about is when you're lying, and the reason you're lying is there's going to be trouble. If you tell them the truth, there's going to be some trouble. And I've always mentioned I'm not a government type of guy. So anything to do with government, I try to avoid. And the best way to avoid it is, don't get involved. But the thing with government and also bandits and criminals and stuff like that, these people put themselves in your life, and you have to have the tactics and plans on what you're going to do to get out of these situations. So, and everybody already knows bandits and criminals and this type of stuff you try to avoid. Okay, well, the places that I go, those people are government people many of the times. So you just have to be aware of what you say and how you act, how you appear, and this type of stuff. Because this is going to lead them to, they're not going to victimize you unless they think that you're an easy prey. And in the way of criminals. Okay, government, they will try to victimize you because, well, I've got the backing, I represent the government, so, you know what I mean? So it's intimidation no matter how you look at it. And so this is what I want to talk about. I've noticed as I'm older, I've had much experience. I've been in situations, and I know what my options are when I get into these situations. And most of the time, when I get in these bad situations like that, the options aren't good. They're not things you really want to do. The options, in some people's minds, is worse than paying the price on whatever it is you're doing. In other words, just give them your money, so you don't have to fight. You don't have to, get a chance of getting hurt. Okay, so that's why, and people would go to that option. Okay, that is seldom the option that I go to. Seldom. Well, and what I want to talk about is getting this experience so you know what to say and how to say it. And that's the first thing that I do in self-defense, is try to avoid it, but not physically avoid it. And the reason is, I find myself in the weirdest situations. And so then like I say, I'm not staying out here on a farm where I don't have to deal with any of these problems. This is not the way I live my life. It has been refreshing, I will admit that. But the real world is out there. And I'm not hiding from the real world. I go and get involved in it. This is why I've had to learn how to talk the talk to avoid different situations. Now, I say this will be a series. And first thing I want to talk about is my experience. It's going to be kind of a biography kind of thing. And as you hear the stuff that I've done and the situations I've been in, then it's easier to understand how I'm able to come up with the proper words. I can carry myself properly. I dress. I have people say, "Well, I don't dress like you, so I can't carry like you." Okay, well, I dress because I carry, and I have to dress appropriately. And so, I'm not like James Bond, and because James Bond wearing a suit and all this kind of stuff, it's hard to fight in a suit. It's hard to carry the weapons that you would think that you're going to be needing. So, anyway, I thought I was going to make this video outside, but the wind looks like it's starting to come back up again. So, I'm going to have to go inside to make this video. But anyway, I'm going to start by talking about what I always talk about. It's me, my experiences. And when you go by your experiences, you know how to talk, you know how to react and say things and do things and this type of stuff. But anyway, what I want to talk about, we're going to start with, and like I say, this is going to be a series. So if you don't give a damn about anything that I've done and what I've learned from what I've done, then there's no sense in even watching this series. But this will give you an in-depth idea about how I've lived my life. Okay, first, I was born and raised in Topeka, Kansas. And I was a young folk in the 50s and the 60s. And Topeka was the last segregated school system in the United States. People think they got racial problems now. You don't even know what racial problems are. Back in the 50s, 60s, that's what racial problems was. And I say I'm half Chinese and half American. And the American is Native American, Irish, and Welsh. And every bit of that shows in my personality. This is why I try to tell people, know what you're from, where know your roots, what is the kind of blood that flows in you. And when you do the stuff that's more natural for you to do, it's much easier and you can learn quicker and you can apply it better. So trying to be somebody you're not is not a good idea. It's just not a good thing. And I see a lot of that. Now, my family's owned, hey, get out of there. My family's owned restaurants. So I was born and raised in restaurants. So money was never what do you call it, a factor in my beliefs. And that's why I've learned since, and that's why I said I've been self-employed all my life. And I was one of the few that could speak English in the family. So I was the one that had to teach all the employees what to do. When they had problems with the government, I had to be the one to do the talking for them and this type of stuff. And I've had responsibilities starting young, and I had to be doing some problem solving when I was young. Uh, I lost my mother when I was 5 years old. Um, it was questionable how she was shot, and at that time, in the old days, somebody would be found floating in a pond somewhere with their hands tied behind their back and a bullet through the head, and they'd call it suicide. And that's what they called my mother, was suicide, and with a gun. And back in those days, this is the early 50s, women didn't normally use a gun for suicide. And and there was no record. The only record, there's no government record on it, when those records just disappeared. And uh, and like I say, she was white, and like I say, my father was Chinese, so that was a problem. And then, like I say, we had money, so I went to the all-white school system in Topeka. I didn't graduate. The February of my senior year, I dropped out because fighting, I had to fight all the time. Middle school and high school, I was having to do a lot of fighting. In grade school, it wasn't nothing like that. I was just fortunate that I was good in sports. I was active and this type of stuff. But it didn't mean nothing when I got into middle school and high school. I mean, it was really bad. Now you're amongst more people, and like I say, I wasn't like everybody else, so there was a problem there. And I've got videos talking about this stuff. Matter of fact, I've been making videos for 10 years now, and I'll get more into that. But and different depths I've been talking about on my experiences. This is kind of just putting them all together. And but anyway, so when I ended up uh, quitting school, my dad got me out of Topeka because the police were putting me in jail. I mean, everything was. I mean, and why? I'm fighting all these white folk, and it's always my fault. So and then so they sent me down to the Kansas Oklahoma line, and so then that's where I pretty much went down there, and it was the same thing, but not. Yeah, it was bad too, and the racial stuff. But anyway, um, from there I was there working in a restaurant. We had a restaurant down there. I had a half brother and came from China, and he had a restaurant down there, and so I was down there helping him get that going and all this stuff. And then from there, I went into the Marines and went to Vietnam, and I stayed in the jungle the whole time. The Marines was the last segregated branch of the military, also, and so they wasn't quite sure what they're going to do with me. But it ended up I had spent 13 months in the jungle, 5 months of training and 13 months in the jungle, and then I was out. So at 19 years old, I was out of the military. I was a combat veteran at 19 years old. And I've got, try to remember to put the link, but I got a blog with lots of videos explaining what my experiences were in Vietnam. And it's on a blog, Crappy Vietnam War Stories. And but anyway, we're going to stop right there, and we're going to, like I said, we're going to talk more about this, and this will help you understand how to lie better. But anyway, this is Mike, NoStressMike.com, on number 1 in this series.